In this world, is the destiny of mankind controlled by some transcendental entity or law? Is it like the hand of God, hovering above? At least it is true that man has no control, even over his own will.
Accordingly, in total, I sentenced Rudakubana to 13 sentences of custody for life and a minimum term to be served in custody of 51 days and 190 days. It is highly likely that he will never be released.
Southport terrorist Axel Rudakubana has been jailed for at least 52 years after he murdered 3 girls, then chillingly told police, "I'm glad they are dead." The 18-year-old will likely never be released from jail after he stabbed BB King, Elsie Stanku and Alistair Silva Guire to death on July 29th. Liverpool Crown Court heard details of the children's injuries that were so horrific their parents asked the media not to repeat them. Rudakubana has now been jailed for life, with a minimum of 52 years following the horrific triple murder. Sentencing, Mr. Justice Goose said he would have killed all 26 children in the community space if he could have done. He also said it was highly unlikely that Rudakubana will ever be released. Chilling footage released by police shows Rudakubana arriving at the building in the back of a taxi, ready to kill. Hiding behind a surgical mask, the monster refuses to pay the driver, who repeatedly asks him cash or card. He then exits the vehicle and makes his way to the community centre, where 26 innocent children had excitedly gathered for the booked-out Taylor Swift dance class. Rudakubana attempts to gain entry through a large door before sneaking in through an open stairwell to his right. Once inside, the triple killer unleashed his rampage, slashing at children and adults one by one. Further footage shows his father removing him from a taxi a week earlier. The shameless triple killer today caused further anguish for the victims' families with his courtroom stunts. Rudakubana was removed from dock shortly after the sentencing began, shouting that he was ill and needed a paramedic. As he left, one family member shouted "coward" as others shook their heads. He was then removed for a second time after lunch when he made another vile outburst. Rudakubana had pleaded guilty to 3 counts of murder and 10 of attempted murder. The teen also admitted 2 terror offences after police found ricin and Al-Qaeda manual at his home. Tonight, PM Keir Starmer called it one of the most harrowing moments in our country's history.
Keir Starmer, who by the way is a piece of shit. You know why Keir Starmer never shuts the fuck up about what his dad did? Look it up. My dad was a tool maker. My dad was a tool maker. Well, he sure made one big fucking tool when he made you, Keir Starmer. And he won't shut up about what fucking job his dad did, because Keir Starmer isn't a Labour guy. He isn't a guy who's ever worked. He doesn't represent the working British public. He's a cocksucker who's been sucking from the teat of the municipality his whole fucking life. He was the head of the Crown Prosecution Service when they declined to prosecute Jimmy Savile, the notorious pedophile. No, there's not enough evidence here. Oh, there's enough evidence to put me in jail because someone said 12 years ago something happened. Oh, you put me in jail, won't you, Keir Starmer? But, you know, Jimmy Savile, who everybody all the time, boys and girls, there's not enough evidence to put him in jail. You, sir, are a piece of shit and you do not represent the actual people of Britain.
We need Nigel Farage in, we need Donald Trump in, we need people like that in. Anyone that tells the truth gets targeted as a far right.
Tammy, why are you here today?
I've came down from Southport. I'm actually from Southport. I've come to show my support for what happened to the children. I do know actually a family of one of the children, you know, it's caused devastation. The children were massacred, and it's not right what's going on, and this government needs to do something about it. I've come to lay flowers on a card and I can't even get down there because they won't let anybody through.
I guarantee you will regret taking part in this disorder, whether directly or those whipping up this action online and then running away themselves. Those that have participated in this violence will face the full force of the law. The police will be making arrests, individuals will be held on remand, charges will follow, and convictions will follow.
One of the most divisive, dangerous speeches I think I've ever heard a politician do, because it completely ignores both sides of this hideous situation. What I would want to say to Sir Keir Starmer, if I ever had the opportunity to interview him, is what does he mean by far right? Because you can't have these conversations unless we all agree on a definition. And I think that definition is open to debate. Also, if you're taking some scally little 18-year-old who has never read a newspaper in his life, who doesn't have any politics, who basically doesn't have a job, isn't in education, watches some violent stuff online, and then decides to go out and have a ruck, if you call him far right, you are basically undermining the value of that phrase. And there are people in the world who are far right, but if you call everybody that, you don't allow the conversation to be had about what genuinely is a far right political activist.
A few days ago, I posted a video to 500,000 viewers about the 3 girls that got slashed and lost their lives at an attack at a Taylor Swift dance class. I then did a deep dive on the subsequent riots from both sides that took place all across the UK. Now, the masked counter-protesters dressed in all black are still marching through the streets, openly carrying weapons, oftentimes in front of law enforcement, with virtually zero outrage from their mainstream media. And even when their local coppers that just look like crossing guards with half the ability try to stop these groups, they quickly have to retreat. So when the citizens encounter these mobs, they're basically on their own. But apparently, if someone like me shares this footage with you, they'll throw me in jail.
The offence of incitement to racial hatred involves publishing or distributing material which is insulting or abusive, which is intended to or likely to start racial hatred. So if you retweet that, then you're republishing that, and then potentially you're committing that offence. And we do have dedicated police officers who are scouring social media. Their job is to look for this material and then follow up with identification arrests and so forth.
And these aren't idle threats, they're legit imprisoning people in expedited trials.
You have been committed for sentence, having pleaded guilty to an offence of publishing written material which is threatening, abusive or insulting. You took to social media in order to encourage others towards participation in the attacks. The sentence is one of 20 months imprisonment.
And if that's not bad enough, they're actually threatening to extradite and prosecute US citizens too.
We will throw the full force of the law at people. And whether you're in this country committing crimes on the streets or committing crimes from further afield online, we will come after you.
Even the BBC is reporting on this, stating even people abroad aren't safe from them, as they apparently have prosecutors around the globe. But honestly, this didn't work out too well for them last time they tried it. So the UK authorities can't stop these mobs from taking over their streets. They'll just try to stop you from noticing those mobs taking over their streets. Of course, they can jail their defenseless citizens from noticing things, but I somehow doubt they'll be able to come after Americans expressing their First Amendment rights protected by their Second. So they can send spooky messages online, write me angry emails regarding my last video documenting the unrest. I seriously doubt they can do anything about Americans sharing the footage of their failures, as the US does have an extradition treaty with the UK, but only if it breaks laws in both countries. So the UK's Crown Prosecution Service can post pathetic videos threatening to arrest you for reposting hatred, which the official UK government shared to 32 million viewers. But it should be noted the Democrat candidate for vice president wants this same exact world for America.
There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech.
So whenever they say it's about stopping mean words online, just know it's actually a way for them to stop you from knowing anything inconvenient to them. Because I would somewhat believe them if they were going after anybody that was inciting crimes in their streets. But if they won't even arrest the mobs with machetes, actually chasing down their coppers in the streets, I somehow doubt arresting me in America is going to solve their issues. So are they cracking down on free speech to make the streets safe, or are they cracking down on free speech because they're crumpet communists? Because even though they posted this on Twitter, they blocked anybody from responding to them. And then they went on to attacking Elon Musk.
There's a sort of silly argument sometimes about free speech, and Musk is sort of trying to pretend sort of freedom of speech is some absolute right. It's never been an absolute right.
As even Scottish politicians on Twitter go after Musk, calling him a race baiter that must be held to account for his actions. To which Elon replied, "I dare that scumbag to sue me," calling Hamza super racist himself, providing, on Twitter, the clear evidence of such.
I'm the only non-white person in the room. But why are we so surprised when the most senior positions in Scotland are filled almost exclusively by those who are white? Take my portfolio alone. The Lord President, white. The Lord Justice Clerk, white. Every High Court judge, white. The Lord Advocate, white. The Solicitor General, white. The Chief Constable, white. Every Deputy Chief Constable, white. Every Assistant Chief Constable, white. White, 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 white. That is not good enough.
Imagine being a second-generation immigrant in Scotland and being outraged at the idea that everybody is white. That's like me going into parts of Middle America and saying, "Thanks for welcoming me into your country and letting me become an American citizen. Now I demand everybody look Chinese or else you guys are bigots." As if Hamza didn't himself prove how accepting that country is by getting elected into Scottish Parliament. I guess he wouldn't be happy unless there's a complete takeover, and if you even suggest, why would Scotland need to do this? He'll just say that's why we need to get rid of Elon Musk and his pesky free speech. As a UK posts about the prison sentences for violent protests, including 7 years for inciting hatred, to which they just handed out a 3-year prison sentence for a social media post. And Viva Frey points out the post was just 3 days ago, meaning he was convicted in just 2 days. With the Telegraph reporting that even witnesses to the riots will be refused bail. And a month ago, they reported how their prime minister cleared out prisons to tackle overcrowding. Never mind the fact that these judges handing out prison sentences to citizens over the protests all seem to have insane histories of being ridiculously lenient on heinous crimes, but suddenly want to clamp down on the rule of the law on these protesters specifically. And if you even notice this, they'll come after you too. And see how through the power of freedom of speech, how alarming this story gets when you even begin to lift the veil. Their justice system seems to be a well-oiled machine when it comes to clamping down on certain citizens rioting in the streets. And like my last video, I admit, there are protesters on the right doing terrible things that need to stop. But the counter-protesters somehow get a pass and oftentimes police protection, to which their police officers openly admit there is two-tiered policing.
But the police are under attack for seemingly having, well, politicisation, two-tier morality, let's say. What's your view on that, as I believe an ex-policeman yourself?
I've experienced two-tier policing. There was riots in Hanford years ago, and then they re-escalated around 2009, 2010. But because of the racial tensions, we were made as police officers to stand in like normal street uniform, with no protective clothing, just brown shields. We had people walking past us with baseball bats and machetes, tapping on the shields, and we had to stand there and do nothing. Yet the next weekend you'd be at a football match, and no holds barred. And it was like that all the time. It was based in Small Heath in Birmingham, right by the Green Lane Mosque, and you're always told to treat one side of the community one way and the other side completely differently.
And unfortunately, this just distracts them from what they really need to be focusing on, the 3 girls that lost their lives at a Taylor Swift dance class, and how we as a society can prevent that from happening again, protecting the next kids.
Be in no doubt, I was shocked. Those that have participated in this violence,
killing of George Floyd,
will face the full
and the
force
response
of the law.
President Trump,
the police
and the US
will be making
authorities
arrests.
to the peaceful
Individuals will be held
people
on
rightly
remand.
demanding justice.
Charges will follow,
has been an affront to
and
humanity.
convictions.
The last week has shone a spotlight.
I guarantee
on the racism,
you will regret taking part in this disorder,
and injustice
whether directly
experienced
or those whipping up this action online and then
in the
running
US,
away themselves.
in the UK,
This is
and
not
across the
protest.
world.
It is
Martin
organised,
Luther King
violent thuggery.
Injustice anywhere
and it has no
is a
place
threat to justice.
on our
Oh, here we go. Yeah, this is what I don't want to have happen. Here we go.
Times 20 to 3, 1440, arresting you on suspicion of improper use of the electronic communications network.
What? The meme police.
Anything you do say may be given evidence. Do you understand that?
So I'm actually being
You're
arrested.
going to be arrested, okay?
Right,
Take you
and-
up to the police station.
Right.
Okay, this is in relation to some comments that you've made on a Facebook page.
Oh, really? Oh, it's a Facebook.
So, bro, they got the police showing up to this dude's house over Facebook comments.
Okay.
Right.
So we need
They're
to
speaking
ask
in
some
cursive?
questions about that.
Yeah, getting out
I've got
the
my
gloves.
keys. I'm going to be arrested for posting on Facebook.
Made some comments that are offensive, obscene, and people have made a complaint about that. And it's turns out they've come from
Can you tell me what this
Facebook
comment
account
was?
name. Okay, well we'll do that when we interview.
All right. And so, what am I going to be locked up for the night, or?
Man, yeah, they have to, it's mandatory for them to do a penis inspection before they put the person inside of the cop car, so that's why they had to put on the gloves. This is the UK. The relevant law is the Communication Act of 2003. Electronic communications which are grossly offensive or indecent or obscene or menacing or false or for the purpose of causing annoyance, inconvenience, or needless anxiety to another. There it is, and there is the law right there. Wow.
Reason for you guys being here today?
I'm here just obviously represent the people, the British and the English people, and to say that it's not racist, it's not far right. I'm mixed race at the end of the day. Yeah, I'm here, I'm representing. Does that mean that I'm racist? Does that mean that I'm a non-existent EDL person? No, I'm not. I'm just here to represent. Simple as that. I'm not here for no violence. I'm not here to go and kick off. I'm just simply here to represent the country.
We just love our country.
We love the country. That's it. You know what I mean, mate?
I mean, why does it have to be like name calling and all that stuff? Why can't everyone just go to, say, Parliament Square and tackle the real issue, which is the government?
Because nothing ever happens. I mean, I don't agree with all the stupidness and all the name calling and stuff. I don't agree with that. But at the end of the day, it's like it's everything what we say it falls on deaf ears all the time. So what else is the people supposed to do? Sit back and let it happen? It's ridiculous, mate.
What is going on in England right now? The government is pretending to be ignorant to the effects of mass immigration, while at the same time gaslighting their own citizens by saying they are the problem. Their hope is if they stoke racial tensions, they'll get to a breaking point and there'll be some sort of event, a mass unaliving. This will allow them to bring down draconian security measures and institute a social credit score system. Because almost every Western government looks at China and they are jealous of how they can control their citizens. Why do you think all relatively free countries are having the same exact problems at the same time? Oh, bollocks.
We have now seen in the last couple of minutes 3 of the people on that boat throwing their mobile phones into the water. It was interesting. One of them, I won't say who, we saw on the telephone basically describing who we were, clearly speaking to somebody in England. Of that I've got no doubt at all. But 3 of them we've seen throwing their phones into the water. If these were legitimate refugees, why would they need to do that?
Is it anti-immigration or illegal immigration? What do you say?
I don't think anybody's illegal.
I hear this a lot. What makes refugees not illegal?
Because people aren't illegal.
Of course, but when they come into the country without passports, what can you do about that?
We can welcome them in. They're refugees, they're asylum seekers, they're fleeing persecution.
Right. And how do you feel about the taxpayer having to pay for that?
The taxpayer doesn't pay for that. I'm answering a question.
Okay. Apparently the taxpayer doesn't pay for illegal immigrants. That's what the woman...
the court hears that police arrived at the scene to find people in a state of panic. Oh, just take a breath after that. Right, Tywin, sorry, it's just so distressing, is it? Look, we're here for those girls and the family, so try not to get upset because it's such an important day for them. And this is horror that came to their door. And I've asked this question before the community, how do you recover from that?
Today, Axel Rudakubana has been sentenced for his cowardly and vicious attack on the young girls who'd gathered at Heart Space on the 29th of July 2024 to have some fun in their school holidays. They had come together for a Taylor Swift themed morning to enjoy dancing, singing and making friendship bracelets in honour of their idol. Those girls, who ranged in age from 6 to 13, were the polar opposite of the calculating teenager who carried out the harrowing and atrocious premeditated attack. The victims were enjoying a day of youthful innocence, untainted by the twisted and unhealthy fascination with violence that drove Axel Rudakubana to carry out the atrocities he'd planned in the days leading up to the 29th of July. His terrifying attack resulted in the deaths of Bibi, Elsie and Alice. According to prosecution counsel today, 2 of those children suffered particularly horrific injuries which can only be described as sadistic in nature. He also attempted to kill 8 other children as they escaped and 2 adults, and traumatised the remaining children who had managed to escape physically unharmed. Since his arrest, he has shown no remorse for his actions. When his home was searched following his arrest, a number of weapons were recovered, including the biological toxin ricin, which the defendant had produced in his bedroom. On his computer devices, a large number of images and documents were found, which demonstrated that he had a long-standing obsession with violence, killing and genocide. Amongst those documents was a version of the Al-Qaeda training manual, which provides instruction on how to commit acts of terror, including with a knife and with poisons such as ricin. Having researched the atrocities committed by others, the evidence that suggests that he set out to emulate them on the 29th of July last year. There is no evidence that he ascribed to any particular political or religious ideology. He wasn't fighting for a cause. His only purpose was to kill, and he targeted the youngest, most vulnerable in order to spread the greatest level of fear and outrage, which he succeeded in doing. I know that the conviction and sentencing today will not take away the distress and the trauma suffered by the victims and the families. How can it? These events have impacted and will continue to impact on the victims forever and their lives every day. They won't be able to just switch off and move on. But I do hope that knowing he is now convicted for the most horrendous of crimes and he's in prison will bring some small comfort to those families.
What's up, boys and morons, and welcome to another video. In this video, we are going to talk about one of the most evil individuals I think I will ever cover in one of my videos, which says a lot. This dumb N-word lunatic name is Axel Rudakubana. I'm gonna try my best covering this case as respectfully as I can, since I'm usually covering my analysis videos with a sense of humor, and my voice is not the most soft-spoken and the most compassionate. But I hope you guys can enjoy this video regardless. I'm not trying to offend anyone. I had to include all of these clips in the beginning of the video for context, since this happened around last year in the summer, and people might forget some of the context around this case. When I first heard about this case, my immediate thoughts was this happened somewhere in America. I might be the only one that's been thinking about this, but this loser right here reminds me of Adam Lanza, who was the infamous Sandy Hook school shooter. And both of them were crazy. Both of them looked crazy. And both of them were a bunch of cowards and targeting small children who couldn't defend themselves. The mainstream media and the current government has done such a bad job covering this case, and I don't blame the people for being frustrated, and many people believes this case was a cover-up. This whole case seems really suspicious, and the fact that the mainstream media showed his childhood photo to make him some kind of victim when they first introduced this guy is such a slimy media manipulation tactic. The custody photo is a far more honest portrayal of his true nature. Imagine being this evil that people are actually discussing if this guy should get a death penalty for his crime. And keep in mind, guys, this is not in America, but in England. If this guy did this in America, he would for sure received the death penalty. Understanding evil is quite simple, you guys. It is the desire for ill will or negative effects to be inflicted upon another entity that has never had any ill will or applied negative effects upon yourself or upon another entity. Within your knowledge, it's not that difficult. There's no gray area and no slippery slope as many people claim. It is black and white, and your instincts let you know even when you are a child, through shame, guilt, and remorse. Evil is corruption of good. That's what I had for you guys for this video. This case is disgusting. This terrorist is disgusting. And the mainstream media and the government is disgusting.